Hi, this is Editor Troxel. In this tutorial we're going to continue where we left off on the previous tutorial, and instead of just being able to search for selected events on the timeline, we're going to add the ability to search through the media pool, and we're going to do it two different ways. First of all, we're just going to search the entire media pool for any media that has embedded markers. And so in this case it would just display everything for every one that it has, and then we're adding a second option that will let you actually select items in the media pool, and it will only show the selected items. So let's see how we do this. Everything down through public My tab is the same, so all of this stuff has not changed in this version since the previous version. But now when we get down to button refresh, I've taken all of the read from the selected events code and I've created a read from selected events routine. So this is all the exact same code that was listed up above in the other routine, except I've just moved it over to this new subroutine. And then we have read from selected events, which I'm calling read from selected events from here. But let's see where this information comes from. On the tab designer, I've added three new radio buttons. First is selected events, which I just called RB selected events. Next is the media pool, which I just called RB media pool. And then we have selected in the media pool, which I called RB selected media. And so we now have three radio buttons here that we can pick the area that we want to search. So coming back to the code, if the RB selected events is checked, then I'm calling the read from selected events, which we just looked at. Then if RB media pool is checked, then I'm calling read all media pool. And then if RB selected media is checked, then I'm going to read just the selected media pool. So we had this read from selected events, which is exactly the same as we had before, and then we have our read all media pool. This is very, very similar in that we're going to do a for each media in myvegas.project.media pool, and that will just show us all of the media in the media pool. If media.markers.count is greater than 0, then we're going to go through each one of the markers and add them the same as we did before, except now instead of a timeline position, which we don't have in this case because it's not on the timeline, we're just putting the word media. And then next we have our read selected media pool. There is actually a way to figure out only the media that is selected in the media pool, and it returns an array. So we created our media array, which I just call media array, from myvegas.project.mediapool.getSelectedMedia. And what that will do is it will fill up this array, and then all we need to do is a for each media in media array. Then if my media.markers.count is greater than 0, then I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did when just reading through all of the media in the media pool, including, instead of a timeline position, we'll just put in the word media. Now, this was just so that we can tell, number one, it's not on the timeline, and number two, when we click on that line, we can look for the word media and not do anything. So let's take a look down here where we have our selected index changed. Now here, if my listview1.selecteditems.count is greater than 0, I've created my undo block. Then I get the list view items and I look at the selected items and I get the first selected items. Now if listview.subitems2.text does not equal media, in other words, it's not part of the media pool, then we will move the timeline position like we did before. So this is the big change here. As long as it does not equal media, we'll go ahead and move the cursor. So if we're looking at selected events, we'll move the cursor. If we're looking at either of the media pool options, we will not. Then we have our button search routine, which has not changed, and that is it for the code in this section. Now let's recompile it. Copy it over. Start Vegas. Now here on the timeline we have 2 selected events, and so when we refresh with the selected events we get that. If I select an event that does not have markers and I refresh, then we get nothing. If I just pick this one, refresh, and we get the first one here. These are the only 2 events in the project with embedded markers. If I go to the media pool, just the media pool, and do a refresh, then notice both of those events were picked up from the media pool. If I go to selected in media pool and do a refresh, notice it picks up nothing. That's because nothing is selected in the project media. So if I come over here to the project media tab and I just pick one of these, let's just pick one, and come back here and refresh, I happen to pick the one that had stuff on it. So let me go over here and pick a different one. Let's pick this one. We come back and refresh, and you notice it picks up nothing. If I choose this one, I know this one does have markers on it because it's the 3-37 Army of the Tennessee. And come back here and refresh, and it will pick up the items for that. Now if I click on any of these entries, notice it is not doing anything because this is media that's in the media pool. If I come here to media pool and refresh, if I click on any of these, it is not changing the cursor because everything here is in the media pool. If I do a search, then it does go ahead and highlight everything appropriately. If I go back to selected events, now when I click, it is moving the cursor to match the marker location. So you can see we've expanded on a little bit. We are now able to search the entire media pool or search just for selected items in the media pool. So if you knew you had a specific file that had a bunch of markers in it in the media pool, you could now select it and it will pull up just those markers, and so you can go through the list and see if one of those markers is the one you're looking for. We'll expand on this a little further in the next tutorial, so like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next tutorial.